Okay. Thank you, Warren. Now, it's a miracle that curiosity survives formal education. This is a quote by Albert Einstein. Curiosity is something I can relate to. A couple of weeks back, I was taking a stroll around St. John's, our lovely little city, and going by a window, I noticed a generic open sign. It says, "Come in, we're open." But to my surprise, there was no signage as to what kind of store it was, not even what the store name was. I kept going my way for another 3 steps, but then the curiosity got a hold of me. I went back, knocked on the door 3 times, looked at my friend who looked terrified because I was about to go in. I opened the door, stepped in, and then spoke to the girl at the other side of the room. I said, "I was just curious, what is this place? What is this store you got here?" She looks at me and says, "This is a massage parlor." And the innocent young man that I was, I said to her, "Is that like a massage therapy?" She gets up in her nice, long red dress and says, "Not exactly. I charge $160 an hour." So, for my speech today, I noticed that there are a lot of things that I don't know, such as this fine establishment downtown, and there's a lot of things I don't know about myself, and I found some which I'd like to share with you. And then I'd like to take a little hop, skip, and a jump throughout my years, and I'd like to start when I was a wee little one, when I was born in Montreal, Quebec. It was a dark, stormy, and cold night in February. When I was born, my mother was Japanese, my father is Canadian, and they named me, full name, 6 names, Matthew John Wallace Yotaro Mine Goldring. It's a handful on my passport, but it works. Okay, so when I was we'll step ahead, and I'm 2 years old now. I'm at the Via Rail station when a train is coming towards me. This giant, monstrous locomotive comes towards me in a monstrous noise, and then my parents notice that I'm crying. But to their surprise, I'm not crying because of sadness or loneliness or fear. I'm crying because of joy, because I'm happy. I was happy to see this enormous machinery coming towards me. And then they said, maybe he's going to be an engineer one day. But never mind my engineering career, because that's hard and long, and I like to talk about things that are more out there. And when I was 4 years old, at 3 years old, my mother was trying to teach me Japanese, my father was teaching me English, I spoke French, and I went to a Portuguese kindergarten. So by that time, my language was a complete mess. And then to make things worse, my parents and I moved to Japan. We got out of Montreal, went to Yokohama, Japan, another large city, and there I learned how to speak Japanese by watching the nightly news. When I was 8 years old, my father and I climbed Mount Fuji, which is 3,776 meters high. There, both of us were under severe mountain sickness, and all throughout the night we were throwing up, but it was all worth it, because in the morning, we went outside where people were gathering, and we looked up to the dark sky, and we looked below to the tumbling and rolling clouds while the sun was rising. And then to this day, I believe that that was the most beautiful scenery that I've ever seen. Now, to complicate things another time, when I turned 12 years old, my parents decided to go back to Canada. But this time, it was to a place called Shikogan, Nova Scotia. Population, cows. There I had the fortunate life of learning English all over again, where I can only recite the alphabet from to H, and that was it for me. So I had the fortunate life of going through, having birthdays where I've received dictionaries, or I've been enrolled in extra English classes in junior high, and I've even been, when I was in grade 7, my parents asked me to go to a grade 8 English summer school, where the extracurricular activities for most of the other students were smoking, and for me, lighting fires in garbage cans. Then now we're going to skip ahead and go to last summer. Last summer I was in San Diego, California with my Newfoundland robotics team. There we were competing in an international underwater remotely operated vehicle competition. There I fell in love with something. And it wasn't the bronze tan girls of California. It wasn't winning the international competition and then being invited to a New Orleans conference, which I just went to last week. But it was actually something else, off the beach, on the waves. Here, it was something where my buddies and I got some gear, and then for the first time in my life, I went surfing. And this was something that I truly love, that I found at this age, something new and exciting and passionate that I can be about. So there I was surfing for the first time in my life, and bobbing up and down on the surf. I was getting a little seasick, and then the twist is, I had a large cheeseburger and fries for lunch. So when I tumbled due to a surprisingly large wave, I tumbled 3 times because I noticed from the sun passing by me 3 times, hitting my head at the bottom on the sand, coming up to the surface and throwing my lunch overboard, while a California surfer next to me said, "Whoa, dude!" And then I went back on my surfboard, headed for another wave, and then kept surfing. This is how much I loved it. I surfed for 3 days there, and then that same summer, went out to Tofino, British Columbia, where I got this awesome shirt when I went to a concert. Now, as you can tell, I love to learn new things. I'm a happy, curious guy, and I'm happy to say that I'm going to go on another surfing trip in April in Costa Rica this time for 2 weeks. I'd like to end this off with a quote by my favorite comedian, George Carlin. It's appropriate, don't worry. I think. Okay. People say life is short. It's only relatively short compared to other things around us, like rivers, mountains, and stars. But really, life is long. Death, on the other hand, is short.